I got sick one final time while I was working for somebody else. I went to the hospital with depression. And I said, you know what? I'm tired of working for other people that don't use me correctly, that don't really care about me. I said, maybe it's time to, we're in a different financial position. Maybe it's time to pull out that laundromat idea again.
How do you rebound from financial ruins and personal challenges to rediscover entrepreneurial success and fulfillment? Today on Seek Go Create the Leadership Journey, we're joined by Mark Csordos, a seasoned entrepreneur who founded CNS Mystery Shoppers Inc. and later reinvented himself in the laundromat industry after facing bankruptcy and severe depression. Mark, a Rutgers University alum and author of Business Lessons for Entrepreneurs, shares his remarkable journey of resilience, from gaining early recognition in the New York Times to overcoming personal and professional setbacks. Glad to have you here, Mark. And one of the things I want to do is just to dive in and get our juices flowing. Is we have just met. We connected on LinkedIn, and I've loved what you were doing. I said, this would be a great guy. I'd love to talk to him for an hour. So I reached out to you, and you graciously said yes. But let's pretend or not pretend we just met, and we're not around your business, or we're not at a chamber or something like that. And I say, Mark, what do you do? What's your answer when people ask you that question?
I help people get into and understand the laundromat industry.
Period.
Period.
That's one of the more succinct and clear responses that I've had in a long time. And so I'm going to ask one laundromat question, and then I'm going to go backwards a little bit to see how we've arrived at this. But why is the laundromat business something that people should consider?
It's a great, steady, solid business that's actually still growing. And the first laundromat came about, I think, in like 1934. So it's well established. Everybody knows what a laundromat is, but it's actually in a growth period, believe it or not, because with wash and fold and pick up and delivery, everybody is now a customer. Another reason the laundromats are great is because it's good, steady income. Revenues are very predictable. Profits are very predictable. In good times and bad, people still have to wash their clothes. So they still need a laundromat.
So I told you this before we clicked record, but because we're in RV world, I just want everyone to know I'm the laundry guy. My wife hasn't done it in years. And I don't think it would really be considered a laundromat that they have in most of these RV resorts, but they're set up similar. They even have they either have the app or quarters. It's that type situation. But I was 3 days ago in a hardcore laundromat here in Rapid City, South Dakota, because I have 3 or 4 rugs here on the floor in the RV. Not many machines can do that. So I went in and found one of these 50 or 60-pound machines, loaded the thing up and let her rip, and it did a great job, man. My wife says, you like going to laundromats, don't you? I go, actually, I really do. Maybe I should consider getting one or something like that. But before we're going to talk, we're going to go in deep with laundromat. I just read because you've written the Laundromat Bible. I want people to know that we've got some biblical stories that we're going to be telling here from the Laundromat Bible in a little while. But I want to back up a little bit. One of the things we love here is just talking about people's journeys and how they come to be where they are. And none of us, I think, arrive at success just like bam. And your story seems to be kind of an up and down type stories. Did you grow up in the Jersey area, or where are you from growing up?
Born and raised in Jersey.
Born and raised in New Jersey. And what kind of upbringing? Just give a little bit. I know you ended up with Rutgers, and we're going to pick up some stuff there, but just give a little bit of Mark the early years.
Younger brother and sister. My mom stayed home until we were old enough. My dad worked at Budweiser. I had a plant. I still do have a plant in New Jersey. So it was your typical middle class upbringing. Nothing said any of us were going to be entrepreneurs. I'm the only one who wound up being one out of the three of us. I went to Rutgers, the home state university. Out of there, I started my first business. So I didn't graduate in a nice compact 4 years. I graduated probably about, I don't know, 5.5, 6 years. And then I started my business, CNS Mystery Shoppers. And I did that for 4 years and started off slow, but once we picked up steam, it really hit the ground running.
So what was it that sort of provoked you coming out of, because coming out of college, most people's path is go through the interview process, check what's out there, not necessarily start a business. I say that I started a business while I was in college, sold it, not really sold it, gave it to somebody else almost, and then worked corporate and then got back into business. But why was there something that was going on that you decided not to go through the interview process or to get a job?
It's at the tea company. People might know it as that. It's now out of business, but for a while, it was one of the biggest companies in the country and also one of the biggest grocery chains. And I lived literally on the other side of the fence. We used to hit our wiffle balls and stuff into the parking lot. So I had worked there for about 8 years in high school and college, part-time in high school and then full-time in college. And I realized, wow, this is not really a great place to work and I don't want to work here. But I came across an idea with the mystery shopping. I read about it in an article and I was like, wow, A&P is $1 billion company. We could use this, but I've never even heard of it before this article. So it stood to reason to me that other companies could use it also. And that's when I said, you know what, forget the A&P. Let me see if I can start this mystery shopping company. And my girlfriend at the time, later my wife, and my best friend were basically as naive as I was. He said, hey, I'm going to start this mystery shopping company. And they're like, okay, yeah, sounds great. And like none of us knew anything, but it worked.
So for people that don't know, tell them what mystery shopping is, because I think that's a cool business too. And I also think we'll talk later when we go in the line. I think it helps you later in your business that you open later. But mystery shopping, what is it?
So our very first client was Pizza Hut. And this is back when Pizza Hut used to be bigger and better than it is today. Today it's just takeout. But believe it or not, for younger people listening, there used to be a time when you went to Pizza Hut and you actually had to wait to get seated. So it was a big deal. So the gentleman owned 18 restaurants. And we would go in there based on preset criteria to see how quickly we got seated, how quickly the waitress came over, how long it took the food to come out, how was the food, did they suggest things, salad bar, breadstick, upsell the order? Were the tables getting bussed? How was the temperature, the music, were the bathrooms clean? All of this would go into a report, both with a raw score and comments. So the owner had an objective idea of what it was like to be a customer in his restaurant. Because obviously when the owner goes in, everybody knows and they treat the person differently. When the mystery shopper comes in, they're just a regular couple on a Saturday night having dinner. So over the course of a year, we did, I think, like 254 shops for this Pizza Hut owner. So he could see individual restaurants and he could also see individual trends within his 18 stores. Like, yeah, what we do a great job with the bathrooms, but we don't do enough suggesting salad bar, breadsticks. That's leaving money on the table. That's a training issue. And then over time, we did obvious places. We worked with a couple of supermarkets, like Manhattan Bagel restaurant. And we also did unusual places. We mystery shopped the New Jersey Lottery and New York Waterway were two of the more unusual ones we did.
I think it's got to take a certain level of self-awareness as an owner or an executive team, if it's a bigger operation, to say we need to bring someone else from the outside in to be a customer? Did you notice anything in common about the people that contracted with you? Any commonalities there?
Yes, it's hard pump that were harder. Yeah, the bigger companies were pretty easy. Once, like, if you're a supermarket and you have millions of in dollars in sales, hundred, maybe if not thousand employees, there's a lot of moving pieces. When you own one restaurant, you might feel, nah, I'm here a lot, everything is good. That's not necessarily true, but it was a little harder to convince the mom and pop that mystery shopping was a good idea as opposed to the larger business.
All right. So we look at the people that would contract with you, but what did you learn about business in general? Or I guess some point you wrote business lessons for entrepreneurs. I don't know if it was during that time or later, but what are some takeaways that you still use today that you learned during that season of your life?
One is patience. When you start a business, it's going to take longer than you want for it to take off. And it might seem like time on paper that things happen quickly, but during real life, when you're living through it can seem like forever. So I think patience was one of the big things that I learned. Also, be very careful of working with family. A lot of times when you have a small business, it's natural that you ask a friend, a family member to help out. What I learned was, would you actually, if they weren't related to you, would you still hire them? And if the answer is no, just because they're working for free, don't don't use them. Because that was a mistake. Now I'm married 28 years, so we survived the mystery shopping, but we did struggle a lot because my wife is a little younger than I am, and she wasn't prepared for it to take off the way it did. You were in the New York Times and Vogue, and you have these companies. You went from me making the cold calls to people reading about us and calling us, and then it became a lot, and she wasn't prepared for it. And to me, it didn't seem that difficult, but for her, in her early 20s, it was. And I would always tell her, look, you're not getting fired, you're only getting promoted. So you better figure this out. And now today, we work together a lot better, but back then it was difficult.
It sounds like that was a pretty sweet statement that you made. Hey, honey, come on, buck up and get tough here.
Yeah, I was probably, my wife still thinks I'm type A. I was probably like A plus back then. So I don't know if I necessarily had I could have probably massaged it, said it better back then. I would handle it differently.
Yeah,
It is what it is.
that goes back to the first thing you mentioned, patience, instead of maybe snapping immediately or saying something like, let me catch my breath here and think about this before I respond. So that business sounds like, at least for a while, was very profitable, very lucrative. Can you give me any info on what people still do that, right? That is still an industry out there. Haven't seen it in a while though myself.
I'm sure it's still out there. When my wife became pregnant with our first child, I said, you know what, maybe this is a sign to move on and do other things. I wasn't married to mystery shopping. I just stumbled into it. I quit the A&P. I burned my bridges, so I couldn't go back. And I was like, okay, you know what? We did it. I showed I could do it. There are other things I want to do in life. To get my wife out of the business, and we'll move on. I'll go on to act number. Unfortunately, act number 2 was a little harder than mystery shopping was.
At what point, when did you write the book? And I didn't read that book. I wasn't able to get that book, but the business lessons for entrepreneurs. When did you write that?
I wrote it right after the sale of the business.
Okay.
While my wife was pregnant. And basically what happened, I just started writing down the lessons I learned. And these are the things that I wish I had known before I started the mystery shopping. And the more I wrote, because she was pregnant, I had plenty of time to write. it just started to take the form of a book. And again, being naive and coming right off the success of the mystery shopping, I was like, yeah, I can write a book. I can be a published author. And I mean, it did happen, but again, that also took longer than expected. But it did eventually happen.
So what year was that book? When did that come out?
Probably, I guess the early 90s.
Oh, wow. Okay. So that's been a while back. 90s or
No,
1000?
early 2000.
I was
Yeah,
gonna say,
yeah.
wait, I didn't think you were that old, man. That's you're
Yeah,
older
yeah.
than me, man. It's okay. It seems
I'm 53.
it seems like a long time ago, though, doesn't it? So early,
Uh,
if someone were to pick that book up today, would you feel confident that most of what's in there still applies? Or would you feel like there needs to be some pretty healthy adjustments based on 20 years later, almost in your experience?
I think most of it applies. If I had to add or edit some, maybe some of the technology has changed, but I don't think the people haven't changed. The way that you would deal with people, working with family, the patient. I really think most of the lessons, I feel like universal. They're the same ones that I try to teach my kids. And, I would teach anybody that was trying to get into entrepreneurship.
And what's interesting is if we go back to that time, because I had to do this recently on a project I was working on, it was the internet was extremely young from a business standpoint, and social media didn't exist, right?
Yeah, we'd have to add a chapter on that, but most of it I would feel
Google, and
comfortable.
I guess Google wasn't even a thing either. So anyway, that's cool. All right. So now I think we're at a kind of a pivotal time from what I read at the very beginning of your Laundromat Bible book that you did you go out and get a job? Is that what you did at that stage?
I tried to start doing public speaking, and I had a little success, not a lot, but it takes a while to get started. And then 9/11 happened. Uh, so all of like company, nobody knew what was going on. So a lot of companies, they didn't spend any extra money. So the training and all that kind of stuff, they shut down the budgets. And since I was a beginner anyway, there was nothing for me. Yeah, I'd say I spent the next 20 years just in a career wilderness. We wound up having two more kids. I'm still happily married. So personally, my life was good, personal life. But as far as the career, I didn't really used to mention it, but I think it's important to share now with people. I do suffer from depression. I still take medication for it. I've had several major bouts of depression in my life. And that also hurt subsequent business ideas that I've had because I'd be going along and then I have this bout of depression and then everything would just like stop in its tracks. And that's really not, when you're a solopreneur, you're basically, you're done. So I worked for a couple of companies that also, as a low level manager, and they were honest jobs, but to me, kind of like dead end jobs. They weren't going to go anywhere. Two or three of the companies wound up going bankrupt anyway. Hopefully that's not a reflection on me, like I'm bad luck or something. But yeah, so I spent, I don't know, 18, 19 years just like struggling, really. I'm not proud of it, but it happened. You also went through bankruptcy. After I was working for a company that later went bankrupt, but I got let go during the Great Recession. And I was actually fired. I wasn't let go, but I felt like they used an excuse to get rid of me. And I don't totally blame them in the sense I remember walking around there around Christmas time. And I was like, wow, if I wasn't here, they wouldn't even know it. And then, long after that, I got fired. Yeah, so we faced bankruptcy, we faced foreclosure. I still dealt with the depression. It was rough. Right now, we're in a good place, and my wife, every now and then, like, I mean, we don't have we have a nice house. We don't have a mansion or anything like that. We have a nice house. And she's just like, from where we come to where we are now, like, sometimes she just wants to cry because this is like her house and we after a long time out of the wilderness. So that's why I don't mind talking about the depression, because I want other people to know. And I write about it occasionally, not a lot on LinkedIn. There is life afterward, and you can deal with it. I wrote a post recently about Brad Delp. The listeners don't know him. He's the lead singer of Boston. So if you've ever rocked out to More Than a Feeling or Amanda, who I named my daughter after, he committed suicide. You look at somebody who had like the ultimate in talent, was in one of the greatest bands ever. Sure, he had money, but those things don't really matter. He had an illness, but I want people to know that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. It's not always close, but it's there.
Would you say, and this might be an ignorant question related to that, but would you say it's cured, it's better, medication is helping it, the fact that your business is doing well is a good thing? Where would you say you're at now with depression?
I would say bad it. I made a deal with my wife that if we bought the laundromat, because one of the things, mental health care in America is sketchy. It's sometimes difficult to get good help. There was a point where, I went to one place and I basically just had rotating doctors and they didn't know me. And at a certain point, I was just like, they just keep giving me the same thing. I don't even know if it's working anymore. The original person I met is long gone. So I stopped taking any kind of medication. I had a relapse. So the deal that I made with my wife was, if she let me, and she bought into it, the laundromat. I went through all the numbers and explained why this will be different than previous times. That I stay on the medication and that I agree to go to occasional therapy and see a doctor. I don't have to go once a week, but as long as every 3 months you just check in with somebody, you don't backslide, she'll support the next business idea.
Right.
So that's where we are now.
So again, this may be another ignorant question, but going back during, you mentioned, I think 18 years that were quite the struggle where you were dealing with that, and definitely ups and downs, probably financially, and just hate to have this awesome club, but yeah, we've gone through bankruptcy. Yes, we've had a home foreclosed, homeless for a number. I'm still homeless, truthfully, but more by choice now. My wife and I talk about where would we want to live. We go, let's just keep roaming around. We'll just be nomads. Or I wish it was more like a pirate, but she doesn't like that terminology. But I've noticed with myself, and I've been entrepreneur, business owner since mid 80s, and I've never gone and gotten diagnosed with anything, so I don't know, but like things are going great, man, and I'm in a pretty good mood. Things are tough, not much in the bank account. I'm still putting the smile on my face. Things are churning on the inside. We're about to have to tell our kids that are in getting out of high school, by the way, there's not going to be a home anymore. And I guess my question for you, and again, if it's related or not, you definitely correct me, but did you notice any correlation and or causation with the ups and downs of finances, your situation, business? Because entrepreneurship's already hard enough. If all of a sudden now you don't layer that, also there's the depression that's factored in. So whatever you want to take from what I said or correct me, I'm okay with that.
It does run in families, and fortunately I'm not aware of my brother or sister having an issue with it, but so both my parents had it, and they had it pretty rough. And that's the thing with depression. There's not necessarily a correlation. There are situational depressions that people can get into, like with a divorce, that type of thing. I've been hitting on all cylinders sometimes, and I'm still depressed. It's like a chemical imbalance. That's why you take the medication. And that's why I agreed to keep seeing the therapist and the doctor so that it can be managed. Like one of the things that I've told people, because you don't brag about having depression, you usually don't tell people, but you had high blood pressure and you were taking medication, you wouldn't think twice about sharing that. There's no shame in that. You have it, you take medication, the other person's not going to think anything about it. So it's the same with depression. I take my medication, and I manage it. And I still have some bad days, but for the most part, I have my goals and I just keep plugging away at them.
Yeah, the good thing about the way social media is, and I think this may have been something that attracted me to you over on LinkedIn, is that it's okay for men of certain ages to show some vulnerability now, where years ago it was definitely not okay. And I just played pickleball this morning with a younger guy that a year ago his wife suddenly passed away, and I'm just trying to check in, say, "Hey, how are you doing?" And we had it wasn't a very deep conversation, but and I do want to say that just from what I've seen with the way you do on LinkedIn, I think is extremely healthy the way you're sharing about your business and teaching and coaching and educating people there, but also being human about the human behind it. So that's probably why you and I are talking here, because those are the kind of stories that we like to link in. So at some point over the last handful of years, because you haven't been in the laundromat business long, but at some point that started either appealing to you or it fell in your lap or it was an accident or something. I know in the book you go into a little bit more, but let's start going into the laundromat because I want to spend our time together really kind of picking that apart over the last few minutes. So give me that story that kind of led up to you saying, I want to own a laundromat.
I'd read some books and my wife liked the idea also. So I got sick one final time while I was working for somebody else. I went to the hospital with depression. And I said, you know what? I'm tired of working for other people that don't use me correctly, that don't really care about me. I said, maybe it's time we're in a different financial position. Maybe it's time to pull out that laundromat idea again. So I spent, I think, like 10 weeks out on disability and I just poured into everything laundromat, videos, articles, anything I could get my hands on. And I took action. That's the biggest thing. I took action. I sent out letters to laundromat owners in my area. Didn't even know who they were. I just did a Google search around where I live. I sent a very simple letter saying that I would looking to buy a laundromat. If you're interested in selling or if you know somebody, here's my phone number. That's it. And I got 3 responses. One wanted too much money, one couldn't pull the trigger, and the one is the one I bought. So probably a few months after being hospitalized, I was the owner of a laundromat.
So I think this is a good time to talk about the process of knowing if something's valuable. And let me do this maybe before we even do that. I put laundromats in this category that are great cash businesses that are not sexy at all, and probably a lot of people, their ego wouldn't allow them to even consider it. Is that fair, or how would you respond if I brought that up?
Yeah, I understand. Becoming more popular on the internet, and there's a lie out there that they're passive income, which they're not. But yes, I do agree with the unsexy business. Most people, if you want to be on CNBC, be a tech entrepreneur. But owning a laundromat, owning a landscaping company, owning a roofing business, they're not sexy. I don't think anybody ever grows up and says, that's what I'm going to do, unless your dad or mom already owned one. Uh, but you know what? They're great businesses and they make money. So I think they are sometimes overlooked.
And listen, it's one of these things where if you really evaluate what is needed, by culture and society. People are, let's hope this keeps occurring. People are always going to wear clothes. And with me,
I guess it depends what you look like.
yeah, there could be some situations we don't want to go down that path. Let's don't do that, Mark. And those clothes are going to get dirty and they're going to need washed. And some people say people are probably going to have their own washing machine. I don't. And you know what? I've got 400 people around me here that don't. Maybe a couple of them have something in their rigs or something like that. But later this week, I've got 3 laundry apps on my phone, 3 of the laundry apps. So there's tech involved and I get emails from them and they market to me and all that. And so I'll go up and put my clothes in and go through this. I think it is. And so I've got a buddy of mine who's in the self-storage business. And then I've got someone who is looking at the car wash business, automatic car wash. And I don't want to say I put all of these in the same category, but sort of in the same category. Businesses that a lot of people, like you said, that want to be on CNBC, they're thinking, I need to start a new app and do this or do that or something. May not be thinking about those businesses, but those are great businesses that people need. So you evaluated the laundromat business. Talk before we go into it. Talk about. I think you said you got all this in the book, but 35,000 laundromats in the U.S. Is that number still good?
There's roughly 35,000 laundromats in the country, and as an industry, roughly $6 to $7 billion in sales for those 35,000.
So someone's going, huh? But so of that, how many of those would they be owner operator types, and how many are there franchises? Are there like any big dogs in the industry? Because I don't see that, and I travel a good bit.
Most of the industry, I would say, it's funny, I looked this stat up for somebody recently, and I think it was 80% of laundromat are either owned by laundromat owners either own 1 or 2 locations. So 80% of it right there. And then you have a couple of percentage that own maybe 3, a couple that own 4 or 5, and then you have a couple. I think the biggest one I can think of is this. It's a family. They've had it for like generations. I think they own like 100. So there's nothing out there that would be considered like a Walmart of laundromat. Most of them, it's a mom and pop in your town.
Why is there a reason for that? Because one of the things that some people, when they look at business, they want to think, how do I scale? How do I grow? How do I do it? Is that just not the makeup, or what's the hindrance, if there is one, on why there's not a Walmart in the industry, in your opinion?
I think because of technology, laundromats are catching up on technology. And so you go back to even like pre-COVID, you didn't have a POS system unless you created your own POS system. And so now there's companies out there like Sense, Curbside, and you can have a POS system. So now you can scale. You can have 2, 3, 4, 10 locations. They're all running on the same, just like Target. They're all running on the same POS system. They're all charging the same prices. Before that, before COVID, if you did pickup and delivery, or you did wash and fold, you're literally writing it down in a notebook like this. I mean, think about this. It's 2020, and people are keeping their records in a spiral notebook. Now, there are still a lot of laundromats that do that, but there are, like, mine doesn't. I have a POS system. So the POS is allowing you. And another problem, I think, was the inability of these machines to take credit cards. I mean, imagine if you had a Walmart of laundromats and everything was quartered. How many man hours would it take you to do all these quartered? Now they have, the newer machines have it like built in, but there's also things that you can do to adapt the machine so that they could be hybrid. They could take, the coins like they always did, or they could take a debit or a credit card. So those two things, or you could just have no coins at all. Now, most laundromats still have coins of some kind, whether it's hybrid or 100%, but you could make it where you have a card system. People put money on the card and then go, so then you have no coins at all. So now it's more attractive. Now you can start scaling it because I don't have to worry about quarters. I don't have to worry about you spilling a coffee on our whole POS system. I always joke, you're like one Starbucks spill away from losing all your records. So those are the two reasons I think you don't see like a huge company in the laundromat space.
Because one of the things, I'm jump over to self-storage. We've had this conversation is that for years, self-storage was mom and pop, somebody had, but I have noticed massive, now that's in many ways, that's a real estate business. It's just, you have renters and tenants, and I've got background in real estate, but I have noticed massive consolidation and large companies buying up all over the place. And I guess it's interesting that you brought that up. It is probably they can integrate that point of sale right into theirs and just keep moving along. Do you see a future where somebody big, one of these, especially because did I read this right that margins in laundromats are in the 20 to 30% range where restaurants are like 10 to 12 to 15 and all? I mean, with margins like that, aren't they going to be appealing for a fund that is just looking for return on investment or no? What am I missing here?
Venture capital comes in. They have a tendency to ruin what made some of these businesses special. So you lose that mom and pop feel, you lose that sense of community. But yes, I could see it happening. I hope it doesn't. I would rather it happen organically through some of the good owners that are already in there rather than somebody with a spreadsheet in New York somewhere. And it's like, hey, you know what? If we bought all these laundromats up, we put the same coat of paint on each one, put the same name, boom. You would take away some of what made them special, some of these stores. Then they'd just be like any other business.
So the other day, I'm going to go back to 3 days ago. I had these rugs. I'm in Rapid City, a city that I've never gone to a laundromat outside of this RV resort that we like to stay in, which I think that's related to what you do, but I think that's different. It's probably just a profit center for the resort, but it's probably run pseudo. They don't have an attendant or anything. And all of them are run with these apps now, by the way. The thing that annoys me is when I go to a different resort and I have to download a different app. So now I've got 3 laundry apps on my phone, and some of them are better than others, by the way. But I'm curious. I went in and I did a search, and this is exactly the way I did it. I did a Google search and I looked at the ratings, and the fortunate thing was one that was rated pretty good was the closest one to me. And I'm going, perfect. There's nothing that's far here in Rapid City anyway. It's a town of 70, 80,000 people. Is that the discovery for most people? Search, ratings, go? Or what else happens that people find laundromats?
A lot of people, and that's why they're so important. And customer service is so important because if I happen to be in the laundromat and I see somebody who hasn't been with us before, I'll ask them, how did you find us? And a lot of people say, I Googled and you had good reviews. I say, okay, great, thank you. So for a lot of people, and especially the younger you get, the more you count on reviews. I don't have I did a paper on that. I don't remember the statistics off the top of my head. It was something like my daughter's 24. So whatever Gen Y, I guess she is, they trust online reviews more than they trust personal reviews. You know, so I could tell her something and she'll believe a stranger online. So yes, they're hugely important, but I also try to be a part of the community and do a lot of guerrilla marketing.
And that's actually one of, I actually enjoyed the whole book, The Laundromat Bible. My wife would say, what are you reading? I said, I'm reading the Bible. I said, the Laundromat Bible. And I think there's a chapter here where you go through 21 or something like that, marketing tools, methods, or something like that. And I enjoyed it because I'm sitting here reading it. I'm going, oh, okay, we actually did that at our real estate company. We went around and knocked on doors. We put up door hangers. To me, those are guerrilla base level. And I think a lot of businesses just miss those totally. I think that's valuable for a lot of businesses to know those kind of principles. Would you agree? What do you want to talk about? Just other things related to marketing before we move on.
Everybody thinks technology now, and they still forget, at least with laundromat, and really a lot of local businesses. Like if I owned a yogurt shop, I'd do the same thing. I don't have to conquer all of New Jersey. I just have to get a couple of miles around my store. That's all I need to do. So connect with the local school, connect with the Chamber of Commerce, do the door hangers, go to civic events. They have a Madawan day every year. And you take the kids and you walk up and down the street and there's face painting and those, nice cars and those type of things. The people put out tables, they promote their business. Yeah, a lot of people don't realize we're here. They drive past you 1,000 times, didn't even realize, oh, you guys will wash it and fold it for us? I love that. I hate doing laundry. So yes, I think with tech, everything in 2024 is Instagram and Facebook, and you can get just as many customers by being in the supermarket and waiting in line and saying, "Excuse me, you like doing laundry?" You got a 75% chance that they don't, and I'll be like, "Well, I own the laundromat right down the street. We do pickup and delivery. Here's my card." I have just as much of a chance getting the customer out of that as I do posting on Instagram again. I just think that people forget about those.
And one of the things that I like about it that probably some people struggle with is that it is truly a local business. I wasn't going to drive 2 hours with my rugs to go get them washed on a few days ago. I was looking for something fairly close. I was looking for something that was rated well, wanted it to be clean when I went in, and I wanted the machines to work, and I wanted to get the crud off these rugs that we have down in our RV here. And man, it did pretty well. I do want to say this though. It wasn't because I was in the middle of reading your book when I went in there. It wasn't as clean as I would have liked for it to have been when I went in. It had a little bit of age and datedness to it. Is how critical is that in a business that cleaning stuff is what they purport to do?
I think businesses and laundromat owners don't realize is that if you have a clean place and a friendly place, a lot of the other amenities, like I have a very small laundromat. It's only 1,500 square feet. So I stick with the basics. I have washers, dryers, I clean your clothes. We have like snack machine, we have a vending machine for like soap. But anything else, your massage chairs, your video games, your coffee bar, I don't have room for this. Okay. And most people will forgive me if I keep it clean and I keep it friendly because that's all they really want. They just want a nice place to if they have to go do this every single week, they want a nice place to do it. So they want it clean and they want it friendly. And that's what I always tell people when you're hiring for jobs like attendants or even at restaurants, anything like that, just hire friendly. You can teach everything else. Okay. If I can't teach you to run a register, we both have bigger problems. Okay. I can't teach you to be friendly though. I can't teach you to want to help people. And so I'm looking for friendly because it makes such a huge difference because you're also with these people for a lot longer than you are in almost any business. If you're a cashier at a supermarket, yeah, that interaction is important, but it doesn't last that long. You could be in the laundromat for an hour and a half, especially if you decide to fold everything there. Wouldn't it be nice? The attendant was friendly. You had a conversation. We have many people like, hey, I'm running to the store. Do you want a coffee? Do you want this? Do you want that? How many other customers at other businesses will be, hey, I'm going out. Do you want something? I'll bring it back for you. So friendly is like paramount. Clean is paramount. Everything else is extra.
Yeah, my wife says, "Why do you enjoy going?" First of all, I like getting our clothes clean. But secondly, it depending on if there's a sitting area, if I've got my computer or laptop, if I'm reading something, it's like an hour and a half, depending on how fast the machines are. I love good, fast machines, by the way. It's like alone time, it's quiet time. Or I actually just love meeting people and talking to people. One thing I didn't like about this one is they had one TV going, and what they had on the TV, Mark, was they had this true crime thing going on where some guy disappeared and all that. I'm guessing there's a mood you could set with what you pop on the TV screen too, right?
Like when I go to the doctor, they usually have the most boring thing on, like the House Hunters. Nobody's gonna get upset at that. The cooking channel. If you come into us, and I tell them, you guys, you can change the channel, but it's always like American Pickers, you know. So it's put on Seinfeld or something like that. But yes, I agree, especially when you get like in that political realm. You don't really need to just stay. We just put Seinfeld on. Everybody likes Seinfeld. Or if there's a bunch of kids, put on cartoons or something. Yeah, just keep it very innocuous.
Couple other quick things here before we wrap up is that I spent some time in the early 2000s with a guy named Dan Kennedy, great marketing guy, guerrilla marketing, did a lot of cool things. And he used to always,
I had his book.
yeah, no BS marketing and stuff like that.
I had that.
So I was in his masterminds, and one of the things that he would always just hammer home to us, because we were starting to coach real estate investors and things like that. He goes, "Yeah, you could coach people." And he said, "You could give people training, you could give people access to things." He says, "But really the ultimate is when you get into the done for you type business." And as I was reading the Bible, the Laundromat Bible, I was fascinated because I probably knew this existed, but I don't know that I truly understood the value and probably margins and how well it can help you scale a store to start adding in what I call the done for you stuff. I guess y'all call it wash and fold and the pickup and delivery and all of that. And I don't know if that's newer, if it's always been around, but I could see that is going to be huge. Moving forward is probably big now. So talk a little bit about that and how powerful that is in your industry.
It's huge. And it started when people had attendance and they wanted something for the attendant. There's always so much cleaning you can do and handing out quarters. So they figured if I do a little folding, washing and folding, that'll at least pay for the attendant. And then what people realize is that a lot of people hate doing laundry and the washing and the folding part of it. So it really just became like a service unto itself. And then with COVID, a lot of people have become taught or accustomed to having things delivered to them. You want Walgreens? Okay, they'll Uber. Somebody will come and they'll pick it up and deliver it to you. You want Burger King? It'll cost you $10, but your $13 combo, they'll deliver it. A lot of people are catching on. You can do the same thing with laundry. And you don't have to do it. All you have to do is you go on the website, you fill it out just like any other thing, and then you leave your laundry. You can leave it in garbage bag by your front door. We'll come, we'll pick it up, and then the next day it comes back all nice, neat, and folded. All you have to do is put it away. I'm sure there are people that would like us to put it away too, but we're not at that point yet.
And this, do you look at it as that's the future, expanding that, especially an operator like you, where you've got limited space? What would be your growth plan? Would it be in areas like that?
How much technology we get? We never have it, so you look at my family. Now, my youngest one is 18, but when they were smaller, I had 2 in softball, 1 in the Little League. My wife worked, I worked. We have 2 dogs. That's a lot of laundry. Come Saturday, and honestly, my wife's not going to hear this probably. She does most of the one. Okay, you do it on your side. And I was thinking, oh, your wife would love you for that. I don't do much laundry. Okay, I'm not really a big folder either. But just think how much time you spend on a weekend with 3 kids and, two with, we had a lady the other day. You talk about the convenience and the pure. She brought in she has like 6 kids. Okay. She brought in 230 pounds of clothes for us to wash and fold. 7 garbage bags of clothes. That's like a $300 something order. She's like, I don't want to deal with it. It's like, at this point, you can't deal with it. This would literally be like 20 loads of laundry. So, yes. And there's a lot of people too. It's just that convenience. It's that treat for them. I'm not a coffee drinker, but a lot of people, you know what? Every day they go to Starbucks and they know it's overpriced, but that's their treat to them. So, a lot of people, especially single people, they're like, you know what? I don't have a lot of expenses. You guys do my laundry for me. You have seniors that can't get around that. They might have a washer and a dryer, but they can't move that well. We pick it up for them. So really the world, it's open. Anybody that doesn't like doing laundry, we can help you. So that opens up your customer base to everyone.
Is there anything you notice from demographics? You mentioned your 24-year-old daughter. We've got a 30-year-old, 33-year-old children. Do you notice anything about the age of people? I guess it matters who's around you, but is there anything that's exciting that you see? Oh, yeah, younger people are really using us, or and we only see mature, I call them old people coming in. Anything like that that you're able to observe? Because I know you also do things with the Laundromat Association, but what are some of the trends that y'all are seeing there?
I think it's easier to reach the younger people with the delivery because they're so much more used to technology. A lot of seniors would probably do it if they even knew that it existed or where to look for it. So I think with younger people, and they're used to like the whole gig economy. Like, I'm not going to move from my couch. My whole life is going to come to me. My medicine's going to come to me. My food's going to come to me. My laundry's going to come to me. So they're much more comfortable with going on the website, downloading an app. It's second nature to them. I think once you start, I shaved, but I'd have gray too. I hadn't shaved the other day. And for us, not another app. I don't want to go on another website. But for the younger generation, I mean, that's just what they do. So they're used to it. So I think going forward, it'll just keep growing and growing.
So one thing, Mark, I'm watching my time here, but I I definitely recommend someone get the Laundromat Bible. I'm looking at my Kindle over here where I've got it loaded. Went through my highlights just a second ago, make sure I wasn't forgetting anything. Definitely, I feel like you wrote that book for someone who might be thinking about possibly doing something in this industry. But just verbally, if someone's interest is piqued or they're curious or whatever, what would you tell them right now? Just like maybe speak to the person that's like going, yeah, I might be interested in this. What would you tell them?
Interested. Are you interested because you heard that it's great passive income from somebody on YouTube? Because if it is, you're in for a surprise. If you really are into it, the best place to go, obviously they could contact me, but the best place to go for free information really is the Coin Laundry Association. I'm a member of it. You don't have to be a member of it. They have a lot of free information. And if you're serious about putting out 6 figures, maybe 7 figures for a laundromat, join the Coin Laundry Association. It's a couple $100. They have a lot that they offer to members for free, a ton of white papers, a lot of videos on basically every subject that you could possibly imagine. They also have a free magazine. It's called Planet Laundry, and I'm actually in it just about every month. Because no, seriously, I write, I'll either write an article or I'll get quoted on one of the topics. You'll get me for free, but the magazine's for free too, and it comes out every month. So that's one of the best places, and they're unbiased really, because they're not like if you go to a distributor or somebody that sells like dryers or washing machines, obviously they have an economic benefit, if you buy these. And so their information can be somewhat slanted toward the rosier picture. The Coin Laundry Association, of course, they would like you to be a member, but they give you more just unbiased information.
Yeah.
And they're really good people too. I know them all.
Yeah. Very good. Also, tell us now where people can connect with you. I know you're pretty active on LinkedIn, but tell them if there's a place to find the book. And I think you've got a personal website too. Go ahead and give us all that. We'll include it in the notes, but tell us all of that right now. Anything you want to share or promote with anybody?
They can email me. It's marksmith@gmail.com. And you'll have to look in the link how to spell my last name, because I got a silent C in there. And also my website is markcsordos.com. So I just try to keep it really simple, and I'm happy to connect with anybody on LinkedIn. I post pretty much like 7 days a week, a lot about laundry, some about entrepreneurship, and on the weekends I usually just have some fun.
Very good. We'll make sure we include all that down in the notes. Great conversation. I've enjoyed this, Mark. We are Seek, Go, Create, those three words. And just as my last question, I'm going to allow you to pick one of those that maybe means more, or I don't know, seek, go, or create, and why. Which one do you choose?
I would say go, because that implies that's action. You have to, a lot of people, and it's not just with laundromats, it's about anything in life. I've written books and people ask me about it, and they don't ever take any action. They want to write a book and they never write anything. So to me, the go would be the action. If you're serious about owning a laundromat or any business, you have to take some action. Go, do your homework, do your research, talk to other business owners that would be non-competing. Usually, if they're non-competing, they're very happy to talk to you. They'll be a wealth of information, but you have to take action. You can't always be a bystander saying someday. So I'm going to go with go.
Excellent. Great choice. Mark Csordos, thank you for joining us on Seek, Go, Create. I appreciate you sharing. I appreciate you being vulnerable and sharing a story. I actually believe all the laundromat stuff is really cool, but I think just the background on the depression and all is very helpful. And probably we need as a society to talk about that more. So I appreciate you doing that. Thanks for listening in. For those listening, we have new episodes on YouTube and on all the podcast platforms every Monday. Make sure you're subscribing or following whatever it is on the platform you choose. And until next time, continue being all that you were created to be.